Chances are you've had a dental filling at some point. It seems pretty simple, right? The dentist cleans out the bad stuff, fills it in, and you're good to go. But underneath that procedure is this fascinating science challenge. How do you get a filling to bond perfectly and actually last for years? Well, it all comes down to controlling an invisible but incredibly powerful force. So let's get right into it. Why would a filling that looks totally perfect end up failing? It's not always about the dentist's skill or the initial bond. The problem actually starts the very second that filling begins to harden, all thanks to a hidden culprit that puts the whole thing under stress from the inside out.
To really get what's going on, we've got to nail down two key ideas. They sound really similar, but trust me, in the world of dental materials, they are two very different things that are at the absolute heart of this whole problem.
Okay, now this slide is where it gets really interesting. See, all of these composite fillings shrink a little bit as they set. That's just physics. You can't get around it. But the real villain in our story is the stress that the shrinkage creates. It's this powerful force that's constantly pulling on the walls of the tooth, fighting against that all-important adhesive bond.
And believe me, this stress isn't just some tiny microscopic thing we don't have to worry about. It leads to very real, very annoying problems. It can pull the filling away just enough to create tiny gaps where bacteria can sneak in and start a new cavity. It can make your tooth super sensitive to cold drinks. And in the worst cases, it can literally bend parts of your tooth, leading to cracks.
So the big question is, where does all this damaging stress even come from? To see that, we've got to zoom in and look at what's happening at the molecular level in those first few seconds after the dentist hits the filling with that blue curing light. Okay, so picture this. Before that blue light hits, the filling material is kind of like a loose crowd of individual molecules. We call them monomers. They're just mingling, held together by these weak forces, and they've got plenty of room to move around. But then, bam, the light hits and everything changes. Those individual molecules start linking arms, forming these long, strong polymer chains. And as they link up, they pull in tight, and the space between them shrinks a lot. When you have millions and millions of them doing this all at once, the entire filling shrinks. Now, this whole hardening process doesn't just happen all at once. It's really a two-act play. At first, in the pre-gel phase, the material is still kind of gooey, like a thick liquid. It could flow a little, and that flow helps relieve some of the initial tension. But then, it hits a tipping point, the post-gel phase, where it becomes a hard solid. After that, no more flow. Every little bit of shrinkage from that point on turns directly into stress. And that moment, the gel point, that is the absolute point of no return. Once the material crosses that line, the stress gets locked in, and it just keeps pulling and pulling on your tooth for the entire life of the filling. So naturally, the huge question for scientists became, how do we fight this? The first major breakthrough didn't come from just trying to tweak the old way of doing things. It came from inventing a completely new type of chemistry from the ground up, one designed specifically to outsmart this shrinkage stress. And that brings us to our first hero, silyroene-based composites. Even the name is a mashup of its key chemical parts, silyloxane and oxirane. The important thing is, unlike pretty much every other composite out there, it doesn't use the standard chemistry. It relies on a totally different reaction to get hard. This is where the magic really happens. See, conventional materials just link up in a chain, pulling everything closer together, and that's what causes all that shrinkage. But silyrones are way smarter. They use these special ring-shaped molecules, and when they get activated, they don't just link up. The rings themselves open up. That opening action physically takes up space, which counteracts a lot of the shrinkage. It's so clever. And we're not talking about a small improvement here. We're talking about a huge deal. Studies have actually shown that this ring-opening chemistry can cut the total material shrinkage by over 45% compared to the old-school composites. That's a massive leap forward in this fight against stress. But wait, there's more. Silyrane was a game changer, but scientists didn't stop there. They've come up with other really ingenious ways to manage stress, not by changing the basic chemistry, but by building smarter structures into the material itself. Take nanogels, for instance. Their whole strategy is to play for time. These tiny little particles are mixed into the resin, and as everything starts to cure, they actually swell up. This helps compensate for some shrinkage, but more importantly, it delays that critical gel point. It basically extends that low-stress liquid phase, giving the material more time to relax before it locks into place. And then you've got these things called AFMs, or addition fragmentation monomers.
Think of these as built-in stress relief valves. As that polymer network is forming and tightening up, if stress starts to build too high in one spot, these special molecules can actually break a bond in the chain and then reform it in a more relaxed position. It's like a dynamic network that can literally rearrange itself in real time to get rid of stress.
Okay, so we've talked about brand new chemistries, smart particles that delay hardening, and even networks that can relax themselves. What does all this super smart molecular level engineering actually mean for you, for the fillings in our teeth? This chart lays it all out beautifully, right? You can see the whole evolution. We started with a conventional material where stress was just something you had to live with. But now we have all these advanced strategies, solarians that attack shrinkage at the source, nanogels that buy precious relaxation time, and AFMs that actively hunt down and destroy stress as it forms. So what's the bottom line? It's pretty simple, actually. All of this incredible science means a better results in your mouth. Lower stress means a stronger, more reliable bond between the filling and your tooth. And that means you get a restoration that's way less likely to fail, less likely to cause you pain, and much more likely to last for a really, really long time. You know, this constant innovation in managing stress is just one piece of the dental materials puzzle. It really makes you think, right? As we get better and better at controlling how these materials behave, the future of a smart filling, one that could do even more than just fill a space, might not be so far off after all.